This is macOS Ken.
The memory crunch creates a tale of two planets. Developers in China take Apple to task. And a foldable iPhone warning. It is Wednesday, the 24th of June, 2026. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by OneSkin, a new standard for your skin. Try it now with 15% off using code macOSKen at oneskin.co/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by Clean My Mac, keeping Macs running smoothly since 2008. For my money, a slow Mac beats a fast Windows machine any day of the week. Of course, a fast Mac beats them both. Keep your Mac speedy and problem-free with Clean My Mac. Cookies, installation remnants, duplicate files. Our Macs pick up lots of junk just through daily use. Clean My Mac knows where to find it and what to do with it, but it does more than that, keeping an eye out for malware and running optimization routines to keep our Macs running their best. Get tidy today. Try 7 days free and use my code MacOSKen20 for 20% off at clnmy.com/macOSKen. Make macOSKen all caps in both places. That way they know where you heard about it and you get the discount. Try 7 days free and use my code MacOSKen20 for 20% off at clnmy.com/macOSKen. Again, macOSKen is all caps, both places. Use code MacOSKen20 for 20% off at clnmy.com/macOSKen. Should we keep doing the best of times, worst of times thing? Here's the thing. It's not an Apple story specifically, but
Ragnarok
does strike me as the most important story in tech right now, with Apple being one of the most important companies in tech right now. Can you do one without the other? Don't worry, won't be as long as yesterday. Bad customers won't be able to afford smartphones soon. Calling them bad is a callback to yesterday. Market tracker Omdia, formerly Canalys, posted a post Tuesday that shows a projected drop in smartphone shipments of a little over 12% in 2026 versus 2025. The same Omdia post says total market value is projected to grow by about 6% year over year over the same period. The reason? Companies that make cheap phones can afford to keep making cheap phones. According to the post, the global smartphone market is undergoing a structural shift as rising component costs and geopolitical uncertainty push leading manufacturers to move away from low-cost, high-volume strategies and prioritize premium, high-value portfolios. That's pushing smartphone ASPs from last year's $467 to $565 this year. That is a 21% jump according to the firm, marking an all-time high in both growth rate and dollar value for the industry. As for when things will get back to normal, they'll start to do so in late 2027 or early 2028, according to the firm. The Omdia post then looks at the anticipated effect on three categories. Emerging markets, including Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America, will see shipments fall hard. These regions rely heavily on low-end devices, according to Omdia, and are highly sensitive to price increases. Developed markets, with their premium-heavy offerings, are expected to be more resilient, according to the firm, with milder shipment declines. So, declines then. As for vendor portfolios, Omdia says nearly every major smartphone brand, apart from Apple, has raised retail prices for new generation products to offset higher manufacturing costs. Of course, Apple's gonna, and we know because they said so. Now, seeing serious benefit from the memory crunch are the workers who make memory in South Korea. A piece from the Next Web reminds us of their good fortune. According to that, Samsung and SK Hynix employees stand to receive hundreds of thousands of dollars each in profit-linked payouts, and the Bank of Korea says the money could push wages and house prices higher across the economy. I'm sorry, what? See, the problem is they're not going to blow that money on hats. The piece has an economist with whom it spoke indicating that the bonus cash is likely to flow into real estate rather than consumer spending. Savings, stocks, and property are the likely destinations, according to the economist. Way oversimplifying it, a larger number of people with a larger amount of money will be able to buy real estate, leaving less real estate to buy, driving up prices for what's left. Hold on a second. From just two companies, you may be asking? Well, no. I mean, yes, the piece indicates that just those two companies can drive up real estate prices, but bigger bonuses aren't just a chip thing. While SK Hynix already had an amazing sounding profit-sharing plan, it was union pressure that got Samsung on board. Now the unions for Hyundai Motors and HD Hyundai Heavy Industries are making similar profit-sharing demands. Meanwhile, the people without union representation, congratulations, you are about to become bad customers. You ever feel like things might be sort of broken? A group of iPhone developers in China think something's broken in Apple's App Store, namely, having to do business in Apple's App Store. The South China Morning Post posted a piece Tuesday that had developers asking China's state administration for market regulation to investigate and penalize the Cupertino company. Feels like that should be an if-then, but whatever. In an open letter seen by South China Morning Post, developers say they want Apple looked into for allegedly abusing the company's market dominance to implement unfair and excessively high costs on local creators. While standard App Store commissions dropped from 30% to 25% earlier this year, and while commissions in Apple's small business and mini apps partner programs are down to 12% from 15%, what developers behind the letter seem to want is other options. According to the Post, the Chinese developer group argued that Apple failed to give domestic creators options for distribution on other app marketplaces and flexible payment options, which would have driven the commission fee as low as 5%. I'm not sure on what planet they think a 5% commission will happen, but you do you letter writers, you. No comment from Apple for the South China Morning Post piece. Doing its fashionably late thing, the second developer beta for watchOS 27 has turned up. On the heels of Monday's arrival for most of the blank OS 27 collection, even a firmware beta for headphones. A piece from Mac Rumors says the beta for Apple Watch has finally made its way. I mentioned the beta firmware for headphones Apple seeded to developers on Monday. That was for one pair of cans, the second generation AirPods Max. Turns out they had more in store. Late Tuesday afternoon, Mac Rumors ran a piece that had Apple seeding updated developer firmware betas for AirPods Pro 2, AirPods Pro 3, and AirPods 4. The piece says they actually did the same for AirPods Max 2. I don't know whether that's truly new or just got missed by Mac Rumors the day before. Remember when headphones were as simple as making sure you had the right connector for the jack? What simpletons we were. Such happy, carefree dullards. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, OneSkin, a new standard for your skin. The scientists behind OneSkin spent 5 years developing their OS1 peptide. It targets cellular senescence, zombie cells they call them. The OS1 peptide switches off the damaged cells that contribute to lines, wrinkles, and sagging skin. It's not just about looks, it's about enhancing how skin functions so it stays healthier and more resilient. I know their OS1 face has made my skin feel better to the touch and taken care of some dry patches I've struggled with for years. See what it can do for you at oneskin.co/macOSken. With over a decade of research behind it, OneSkin's OS1 peptide is proven to target the visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthiest skin now and as you age. For a limited time, try OneSkin with 15% off using code MacOSken at oneskin.co/macOSken. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code MacOSken. When they ask where you heard about them, please make sure you tell them it was macOSken. Try OneSkin now with 15% off using code MacOSken at oneskin.co/macOSken. Between being sick and catching up after WWDC, I have forgotten to check the availability of MacBook Neo lately. Where I am at least, looks like they're easier to get. Had I ordered yesterday afternoon, I'd have been looking at delivery between the 1st of July and the 6th. That was the case for both capacities in every color. Now, if I had gone to my local Apple store, all but one of the machines was ready and waiting for a new home. The 512 gigabyte in silver was the one that would have had me waiting. Ordering yesterday, I could have picked that machine up on the 7th of July, which is at least a day longer than it would take to have it delivered. Which is weird. Anyway, your mileage may vary. We'll see what it looks like next Monday, assuming I remember to look. There was a story making the rounds yesterday that I don't really care about, but it was everywhere, so I'll tell you just to tell ya. The anticipated high cost of this fall's anticipated foldable iPhone is going to be tough to recoup if you try to sell it. That is the word from a number of pieces, including one from 9to5Mac. To be fair, it wasn't 9to5Mac that said that. It was SellCell, buyer and seller of cell phones. According to the write-up, SellCell found that foldable phones lose 64.6% of their value within a year, making them the worst performing smartphone category for value retention. This compares to 55% for traditional smartphones. Factor in higher purchase cost, and that amounts to losing almost $1,000 of value if you buy new and sell a year later. Why don't I care about this story? Because you don't need a grain of salt to take it seriously, you need a handful. For starters, 9to5Mac says the depreciation for a foldable iPhone would likely be lower, as iPhones hold their value much better than many competing models. Additionally, we have no idea what this foldable will look like, though the overall trend is somewhat informative. And one more sprinkle of salt for fun, we don't know how many Apple is going to make. If supply and demand start out of whack and stay out of whack, resale value might stay high. That said, 9to5Mac runs the piece as sort of a warning, I guess. If you're thinking you'll buy it to try it and sell it if you don't like it, doing so comes at conspicuous risk. And finally today, in the proud tradition of the Bad News Bears, the replacements, Happy Gilmore, the remake of the Bad News Bears, Dodgeball, Blades of Glory, and need I go on? In the wake of seemingly countless sports-based comedies comes The Dink, the next feature from Apple. 9 to 5 Mac has written up the offering. In it, a washed-up tennis almost star has been reduced to coaching unruly children at his father's country club. They hate pickleball, but when the former future GOAT injures himself, his doctor says pickleball is his one way back to the sport he loves. The Dink is produced by Apple Original Films, Rivulet Films, and Ben Stiller's Red Hour Films. You will be shocked to hear that Ben Stiller has a part in this movie, which is led by Jake Johnson and Mary Steenburgen. It's full of other people you know, including Ed Harris, Patton Oswalt, Chris Parnell, Chloe Fineman, and there's plenty more where that came from. Written up now because there is a trailer now on YouTube. The movie itself won't be out for another month. Headed straight to streaming, The Dink premieres on Apple TV on Friday, the 24th of July. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Clean My Mac. Try 7 days free and use my code macOSKen20 for 20% off at clnmy.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by OneSkin, a new standard for your skin. Try it now with 15% off using code macOSKen at oneskin.co/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, macOSKen at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macOSKen.com. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Leonard likes this post.